Derek in Livonia, what's up?
I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things that I don't think is getting looked at enough with the Lions, and that's obviously Jared Goff and his turnover issue. Because as you guys have said a few times, the last 5 games is really when this team has struggled, and that's when Jared Goff has been turning over the most. 9 turnovers in 5 games.
Yes,
is just it's brutal, and I've been saying for 2 years I don't think he's the guy. Like I don't trust him, and I knew that. The other head would turn, and that's kind of where we're at. And I think someone touched base with it yesterday with you guys, and it's Jared Goff is limited with his ability. He can't move in the pocket. He can't throw a deep ball. He has to have everything perfect for him to be adequate. And as we know in the NFL, that's not going to be a game-to-game situation. And realistically, we're only going to go as far as this guy takes us this year, but long term, I don't know that he's what we need. He fumbles. He turns the ball over quite a bit. I don't see he reads progressions well. Perfect example when he threw that deep ball to JMO, and JMO's turning every which way to look for the ball because Goff can't get it to him.
Well, in fairness, he was getting hit and he couldn't step into it. But you're right, and we have talked about it almost ad nauseum. And I've also said, and others have as well, that's why I was not in favor of extending him, and I'm still not in favor of extending him until he proves to me in a crunch situation like a playoff game, he can lead this team to victory. And that's what I believe, Derek. And there are other people who feel differently.
I don't see him reading progressions. It's like he knows who he's throwing to before he snaps the ball every play. And if that guy is not open, we're just doomed. And, to touch back, when he threw that deep ball to JMO's looking every which way. He had St. Brown over the middle, wide open, and he probably still would have been running. And instead, he forces something. He hurries. Goff's the problem. And for as much, praise as the guy got in the beginning of the season because he was playing so well and he had a streak with no interceptions, we knew that wasn't going to last. And realistically, we're 10, 11, 12 wins. We're talking about a division title. But if we want to get to where we could potentially go with this defense and with our offensive weapons, we have to look at a quarterback.
All right, let me ask.
How do you get that quarterback that's better than Jared Goff?
And that is the problem. But we either have to look to see who's available, whoever that may be, whether, depending on – we have to spend – no matter where we look at to get a quarterback.
Unless they think, and I'm not talking about now, that Hendon Hooker is the guy. Let me ask you a question, a hypothetical question, because we were almost going to do this today as a Twitter poll. Would you rather, as a Lion fan, all right, Derek, have the Lions win a first-round playoff game, win the division, win a playoff game at home, and they extend Goff, he plays well, they only win the one game, or them not make the playoffs and they don't extend Goff?
That's a brutal question.
Of course.
Obviously, I want my team to do well.
Okay.
No, it's fair. It's fair. And it's a catch-22. I want them to win the division and go to the playoffs and win a playoff game, yes. But if that meant, moving on from Goff, it's like, it's tough. Of course, I want my team to win, and I want them to win a playoff game. But I would like to see maybe even Hendon Hooker get a chance before we decide to extend this guy long term.
Well, he's not going to get a chance
in preseason next year.
You're not going to get a chance this year.
The last Lions QB to win a playoff game?
Yes.
I mean, they didn't extend him.
No, I know.
He stayed around for a couple of years, Eric Kramer.
Yes.
And that's really not a fair way to even answer it. But I do think the caller's initial points about Goff are glaring.
Yes, he's right.
He looks a little more limited than I thought he was. Like, I think, John, you agree the defense's approach to playing them have kind of all remained the same recently, and he looks rattled. He does look like he's having trouble getting to that second option, and some of that's the offensive line's fault.
There's other times, though, where he gets him in the right play, and he does get through the progressions, and you get a third down conversion. It doesn't happen as much as it happens with other quarterbacks. But here's where the Lions do have a luxury. He's under contract for another year. They haven't extended him. They haven't committed any more funds or resources to that position. They also have the ability to franchise him. So they have control for the next 2 years. And yes, they could do a second franchise tag, but that becomes financially irresponsible. So they have time to answer that question. And that question will always be, all right, Goff is good. And there's not a lot of quarterbacks. There are quarterbacks that are as good. There are some that are better. But how do you go from Jared Goff and what he is? Some things he does well, and he has his limitations. But how do you secure a quarterback that is better at that position than Jared Goff? And they have 2 years to do that.
Right. If you have somebody who you think is young that can develop, then you somehow part ways with Goff and go free agent for a year. And we talked in the bullpen area about one Mr. Kirk Cousins.
You did? I didn't.
Oh.
We did.
We did.
Shooting that around a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
That if, this thing goes south here and it kind of becomes evident that Goff isn't your guy, I think he's on trial here a little bit right now on how this season ends and what they do. I think he would probably be the number one guy you would blame if they don't somehow end up winning this division, if it goes that sideways. And we were talking and saying, look, he is a free agent, Kirk Cousins, and that would be the quick Band-Aid to move away.
Right, for
I don't know if you could financially do that with the cap hit. And
so that's the thing but you're basically trading one for another, and it's like for like. Like, how much better do you think Kirk Cousins is than Jared Goff? Jared Goff is under contract for next year.
Right,
now you're going to, break free from him, take I don't know how much cap hit you're going to take, but then you're going to pay more because you're not going to get him for the same price as you're paying Jared Goff right now.
So Kirk Cousins didn't win the home playoff game last year. Jared Goff, I think, needs to win that.
I agree.
And he separates himself from that. I just think he can't move at all. I don't know if there's ever been a bigger statue in the league.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady was not very mobile.
But
especially in that last Super Bowl run.
His hallmark thing was stepping up in the pocket.
Right.
Yeah. You got to be able to step up. They don't have that ability right now. They don't have the protection for him to step up in the interior of that offensive line.